video, I sew Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses, the swirl dress. And I used this beautiful blue fabric. Alright, so this is found in her Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses, which I will link below. On Amazon, you can find this book. It has so many great resources. I think you're going to love it. There are many patterns at the end of this book that you can do, and today I'm just going to do one of them. So let's go ahead and flip over to that swirl dress. She used this beautiful pattern, which I would have loved as well, but I went instead with a silky satin cotton. So let's go ahead and look at what it says here. It says the swirl dress was a very popular style of wrap dress from the 40s through the 60s. It came in adorable novelty print cottons and was an everyday wardrobe staple. I love the feminine shape of this dress, but what sets it apart is that the bodice is fitted very nicely without the use of darts. The neckline gathers provide the bust shaping. Okay, stop there. So at first I thought, I don't know, Gertie, what about darts? Darts are so amazing. But actually, yes, it worked perfectly well. This lady is a genius. So as you can see, this is the design, and she provides you with step-by-step instructions, all of the supplies that you're going to need. Everything is listed in the book. So I'm not going to read all of it, but I definitely recommend if you want to get started sewing, this is one of the great books to start with, especially if you're interested in vintage styles, because she really puts a lot of elements that you would find in patterns that were printed in the 19s to the 60s. So yes, this has a beautiful shape, and it looks great with the contrast sash, which I didn't do. I still went with the regular fabric. Nevertheless, the tie really adds a lot to it. So she shows you everything you're going to need, all the pattern pieces. So I got all the pattern pieces together, and I traced them and cut them out, and then I cut my material out. And then I basically just read through all of her instructions. Of what is going to be happening and what to expect. So as you can see, she gives you lots of beautiful picture diagrams, which are very helpful, and the overall look of the dress. And so that this can kind of show you the shape without any pattern detail. So I went ahead and started, like she said. I took and I did the shoulder seams first. Now originally I was going to finish all of the edges with an overlocking stitch, but it just didn't work well with this type of fabric. I tried on some scrap pieces, it didn't work. So I instead chose to do all of my seams, French seams, as much as possible. So I started with the top of the shoulder, and I did these French seams, measuring that 5/8 of an inch, splitting it up, doing 2/8 and then 3/8 of an inch. So that way I wouldn't mess up the proportions. I measured and I pinned it, and then I took my scissors and trimmed the inside of what would be that French seam, and of course ironed it down to help with the pressing and helping with the process. Okay, so now I'm just trimming down the seam allowance, so that way I definitely am not going to have any of these edges sticking out when I fold it over to finish that French seam. French seams look really nice. They are maybe a bit time consuming, but they always just look and feel great, and you're not going to ever have to worry about a tacky finish because you don't have a serger, which with a sewing machine, hopefully it works out, but different fabrics, you know, and knowing exactly what you're doing, and then I have the added complexity of I'm buying in a second language, so I'm never 100% sure of the type of fabric I'm purchasing. So I always have to play with it a bit before I settle on the needle, settle on the type of stitch. So this project just ended up being primarily French seams as much as possible, or rolled seams, like for the bottom of the skirt. Alright, so now I've pinned it in place. I'm going to take it back to the machine and finish it up. Measuring with my little ruler to make sure I have the 3/8 on this portion, so that way all of the edges are perfectly aligned. Pulling those pins out as I go. I'm curious to know, do you ever decide on certain seams because maybe your machine, you can't figure out quite how to do it, or just for some reason you can't get the fabric to function in the manner of what you're needing? That happens to me sometimes, and I wonder if I'm alone or if it's just because I don't have enough experience yet. But definitely this project was good for learning, and I was satisfied with the results. It was a bit challenging too, so I'm learning new skills. Alright, so for this part I really needed to make sure that French seams would be okay on the sides of the garment. So because actually I didn't follow her instructions exactly, so what I did was I made like a miniature Barbie version essentially, just to make sure that it was logistically going to work. Because sometimes, you know, with sewing you have to be work ahead in your mind. You have to mentally visualize a lot, and sometimes I just can't do it. So I'm like, okay, let's make a little Barbie top here and see, am I going to be able to roll the sleeves to finish the hem there, and using French seams along the side won't affect anything. And yeah, it's going to work, because if that's the sleeve right there, then the French seams on the inside work fine, and I can go ahead and finish the sleeve hems. So that's not really what her design did, because she used the sash going through, and she left an opening on the side, which I didn't. Alright, so here I've gone ahead and I have made bias tape and put around the edge everywhere, along with the facing at the top, and then I just zigzag stitch the little bit at the end. And this is what it looks like. And here's my beautiful French seams. Yay! And I went ahead and finished the hems on the sleeves, and they turned out well. So I was happy with that. Definitely a bit tricky type of fabric to use, but probably because it's a type of satin finish, so a bit silky. And you see, it looks like a collar. The facing actually looks like a collar. And for a bit I thought, maybe I will use it as a collar instead of a facing. But in the end, I did end up turning that to the other side, like I'm showing you there. Alright, so on to the skirt. The skirt, of course, is so much easier. Yay! Yeah, so I just went ahead and French seamed the side panels to the front panel, which was very simple to do, very easy to do, and kind of straightforward, just like everything else. And then, of course, I hemmed the sides, and I didn't hem the bottom until later. But basically, essentially, it's the same thing. I rolled the edges, pinned them, sewn them in place, and then I went ahead and sewed this sash, which was straightforward and easy enough to do. Yay! So this little project came along quite well. I also went ahead and made buttonholes and sewed on the buttons, which was a bit tricky because of my machine. So I'm still getting comfortable with buttons. And I added a little ribbon there at the back with a bow, which I thought was super cute. So here's my buttons. They're less than perfect. They're different shapes and sizes because I used what I had, which I think is kind of fun and different. And yes, I hemmed the bottom of the skirt at this point. With the leftover fabric, I made a gentleman's handkerchief so my husband can wear it in his breast pocket whenever we go out wearing this outfit, and we'll correspond a bit. if you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments. I'll show you how to make a gentleman's handkerchief. Very simple. And then with a little bit more of the extra fabric, I made my cat a cute little collar because why not? It's super easy to do. I made it about just over a foot, as you can see, long and by 5.5, which ended up being too wide. So this is not hard to do, but if you want to see a video on how to do that, also put a comment in the description so I can make a video just about that. Very straightforward though, kind of like the sash or a waistband, but you make it for the size of your cat's neck or dog. So I folded it over, clipped the edges of the inside so they won't stick out, and pressed it, and then I added this nice little trim to put on the inside, which is super cute. You'll see it looks so good on him. Really easy to do, but I can definitely do a whole video on this if you're interested. And then I added this little snap closure. Usually I still want a button and do a buttonhole, but I was like, let's try a snap this time. So I put it on the snap, easy enough to do, but of course has to be hand sewn, so it takes a bit more time. And then you just snap it on. I guess if your cat is very gifted, he might be able to get out of it more easily. But mine doesn't seem to mind wearing it. There it is on him. Isn't he so handsome? My little Coco. And he's so sweet. He'll pull it up with wearing anything around his neck. He doesn't really like clothes, but he's okay with collars. It looks really good on him. And here's the dress on me. Yay! Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, everybody.